Hello everybody, my name is Christian Quick and welcome back to another video. Today we are only going to be doing this video in Blockbench, and this is going to be the first part of making an entity in Minecraft. As you can see, I have made a couple entities in the past, and this only works with entities that I am either currently still working on, because it is very important to save your model if they're not done. This is the floofers. Now this was the mob that I ended up making for the entity tutorial, but I messed up the recording when making because there are three parts. There is the modeling in your edit, the painting, which is basically the pixelation and what does it look like, and then the animations in which it'll do its animations. For GeekoLib animated model, I think you need to go into your file, plugins, and these are the plugins that I have. I have the CEM template loader. This allows me to basically open up Minecraft existing stuff. Um, I think you're going to need the GeekoLib animation utils. You can always just look them up in here. Fabric mod entity, mod utils. So these are all just good things to just have. Even if you don't need one or the other, you still will have them. So it's perfectly fine just like that. But make sure that you have those installed. And you'll start with your model by clicking on GeckoLib animated model, and we're going to create a new model. Now, the model identifier would normally be what we use, but we're just going to call the file name as if it is our thing. So here you would do whatever your so like I did fluffers, right? And we're just gonna you can call it whatever you want. If it has more than one name, so like I had a giant spider, so spider, spider, and so it's very good that to have spacings in your words with whatever you're working on. Today we are just going to be making let's call this just an example. The name doesn't really matter. Whatever your name is of the thing, and make sure you put underscores in between all the words of your thing. Now, how do I move around in here? Your left mouse will turn, and this is going to get a little difficult to getting to. And then you can use your scroll wheel to zoom in and out. So in and out, stuff like that. And then if you need to not like zoom in over here because the blocks are over here, you would use your right mouse and you would drag in that direction. If you have a model, don't click on the model. You're going to have to make sure that you're in some open space when you begin, and then move however you feel. To open up your first cube, let's just add a cube, and its automatically default is going to be in the center at 0, 0, and each of these is 1 pixel wide. So right now, this is a very small entity. And usually this is going to be all the pieces of the entity that get put together into a full entity, and that is what we will actually be messing with. So if I said, for example, if I said this was the model, you could just go straight to our edit. You would have to create a texture, and then whatever your texture is, you would want to call it by whatever your thing is up here. So uh, basically the name, and then you could literally just call it that, just whatever the name is. So for this example. And here it's got your north-facing side and all the other directions. So what's important is that this north-facing side, make sure that when you make an entity, that if you put a face on it or whatever direction you want, make sure that it is moving. I was going to try and make a smiley face. Make sure it is moving in north direction. If I say that if I start making the model and I have the face pointing this way, then what's going to happen is when the model sees the entity, it's going to be looking in that direction, but it's going to be moving. It's going to be looking in this direction, but it's going to be moving in this direction. And you definitely don't want that. I had a Queen Bee live stream in which I accidentally did that. I either had it facing east or west, and that was an absolute pain to fix. So please, um, make sure that your model is pointing north. In your modeling, that is the most important thing, is that it is pointing north. Um, when we get onto paint, as you can see, we have all of our colors. If I don't color it, it will legit just be these colors, but you can color it, have all your fanciness, you have all your RGB scales, so ton of color to going through. And then if I go to animate, you'll notice that this if I click on this cube, it won't let me animate it. So every time you make a thing, you're going to have to add a group, and you're going to have to put that cube in that group. And I would recommend, if I said that this was, I don't know, the piece, then this has to be um, the same thing. Now, these cubes do not get pivot points. The pieces do. I'm going to have to explain that later. But now if I go to animate, the piece can have an animation. I can click on it and, oh, because I would have to add an animation, probably. But it is here in the animations folder. We'll get to animations when we get to them. Let's try and make something that looks decently like a quote-unquote person. So what is a person going to have? A person is going to have 2 legs, a body, 2 arms, and a head. Pretty easy, simple stuff. So let's say that we could keep this 2-2, and then let's make this off a block from the center, and then we're going to bring this up. Let's say the size of this, so all your greens are going to be your elevations, and then there's always this red and blue line. So the blue line does not point in this direction, and the red one doesn't point in this direction. The red one pointing in this means that if I want the object to move in this direction, I have to increase the red. So increasing the red, so if I'm talking about the size, if I increase the red by 1, it's going to go in that direction, it's going to go in that direction, it's going to keep going until I'm done. I'm going to keep this one as 2, and then let's say let's say that this is 4. That's a leg, right? That's pretty good leg. I don't know, we could probably say 6. That probably seems a lot more human-like. And then when you'll notice that as I keep moving things around, the box will be out of scale. That is perfectly fine. Um, if it bothers you that much, you can always delete, create a new texture, and then confirm. Now, even if it's called texture, that's fine, as long as the last time when you go to save it, you change the word texture to whatever the name of your entity is. And then I'm going to be a little cheeky. I'm going to click on here. And actually, why don't I click on here and then Control D? So I have piece and piece 2. And then they're kind of inside of each other because I basically copied and pasted it. Control D copies all information about it. So if I just copy this and then drag it over here, so now we have the legs. The legs are looking great. So now that we are making sure that this is facing north, let's go from the south direction facing north, and then let's depict out what is the left and the right side, talking about from behind the entity, that way we don't mess things up. So this right here is going to be a piece called left leg. And this, you're going to call the folder left leg. Same thing on this side. This is going to be on the right side, so we're going to call this the right leg. And then this is going to be the right leg. Adding in yet a new cube, it should automatically put it on there. Let's just raise this up. And actually, if I start spreading it out, let's make this a little bit big. Position, no, I want size. If I start putting it in here, of course I want to show you something. So okay, let's do it on this side. If the images kind of intertwine with each other, they're gonna do this thing called z-fighting. You'll notice that as I start to move around, so that is something that I'll show you when we get to paint. That is completely fixable, but that is something that might bother you at first. Sometimes you might run into that, but for this texture, for now, I'm just gonna try and make all the textures not do that. Now, what do I want the size of this body to be like? Let's make it a little fatter than the legs. So let's give it an 8. And then we want the size, let's say we want, let's push it back. Because remember, every time I add one, it's going to add to the scale. So it's going to push and then push. So now we see that the cube is pretty good. And then let's kind of pick this up. So if the leg is 6, I could probably say this is 8. That is probably going to be the most human-like ish thing. This is going to start looking like a robot, trust me. And then if you bothers you about the cube, simply just delete, retexture, confirm, and then suddenly now you have a whole new bottle that looks a lot better. So what is this cube? This cube is going to be called the body. Let's add a folder. Make sure that it is outside, because if it is inside the thing and you close it, that's going to be bad. So let's put cube in bone. Let's call this the body, and then let's call this cube body as well. Now, you can put folders inside of other folders, but when doing that, that is basically saying that they are connected. Now, is the body connected to the leg, or is the leg connected to the body? I would say that the body is your most center piece, and that your legs are attached to it. I'll try and show you what I mean. Let's put the leg, just the right leg in. So remember, that would be this one. If I'm looking from the back, that is here. And let me take the body, right? And if I click on I want in the folder. There we go. So now if I click on the body and I increase the position, they're going to move as one because the leg is automatically attached to the body. That is why you would want them attached. So let's add the left leg into this. So now later when we get to like animations and I didn't mean to put that with the right leg. There we go. So now when we get to animations and stuff, click on the body. If I try and make this thing jump or move around, made him go through the floor. Um, it will be easier because the centerpiece is what's most attached. So when the body moves, these move as well. Let's go ahead and try and make the legs. I usually click out and then I just add cube, add bone, and then put the cube in the bone, and then I work on what it is. Oh, I'm on. I was holding on the folder. I was wondering why it wasn't moving. Okay, let's make we could probably say that's a pretty good spot for it. And now that we have this arm piece, let us try and let's move it down like that, and then extend the size up to proper size. So this is 6. So this is the same size as the leg, which is perfectly fine. And then I'm going to be a little cheeky. I'm going to Control D, and then we are going to drag it onto this side. Let's make a new texture. Can import texture, confirm, whatever. So let's add another group. Let's kick it out of here. And then let's add this a cube to each. So this cube, if we go from the south side, this to me looks like it would be the right arm. So let's call this the right arm. And then we're going to call this the right arm. And then we're going to call this one the other side. So this would be the left arm. And that this right here would be the left arm. Beautiful. Now I would agree that the arms are attached to the body. And so what we are going to do is we're going to take these two and we're just going to slide. Okay, okay, there we go. That one worked. There we go. So now when I click on the body, if I was to move up the position and move it down, it all moves as if it is one object. Beautiful. And then there is one more thing that we are going to be working on, and that is going to be the head. So actually, before I label it, let's put it in position. And well, that is a really tiny head. If you want to texture it like that, go ahead. I'm going to try and make it a little bit different than that. Let's hmm. I could probably say like a 4 by 4. That seem okay? I think that is Decent. Kind of liking the 6 as well. They both kind of go. I think I'm gonna go for the big head. I'm gonna go for the big head. So now the cube is in place. So let's call this the head, and that the cube is going to be the head, and then let's attach the cube into the folder. And then I would say that the head is attached to the body because if it wasn't, the head would either hover or the body would just start just ramming into the head. Um, Completely optional, unless you wanted to do that. Be my guest. So now we have this entire body as if it is one piece. We have this entire creature, this thing, this example. And so now that I have all the pieces and I have them all in the perfect position that I would say that I wanted in, let us delete the texture and then create a texture. And then, like I said, when you're done, put in the name of whatever your model is and put it in there. So now you have a 32 by 32. I've had all the way up to a 512 by 512. Took me probably like 2 hours to texture, but let's get into the texturing of this 32 by 32 example. Now this one would be super easy. So what I would recommend doing is you can either turn shading on or off as you're texturing. It just kind of depends on what you're doing. And what's really cool is there's this thing called painting grid. So this grid will tell you how much space you have, and then when you want to look at it when you're done, you can just turn it off. And so it really puts in the difference. So let us give this guy, let's give him a little happy face. So let's give him 2 lines here, 2 lines here, and then let's I, I'd say that's pretty happy. And then we could probably make it. Oh geez, I have to discriminate here for a second. Let's make him white. Let's make him like a paper. That way I don't get in trouble. All right. So now, sure, that's acceptable. Starting to look like a dream, I guess. If you ever want to use fill, you can click on fill, and this will completely do the other texture. Now, fill is not like bucket. If I have a color, right, and I just kind of Control Z. If I have like this, and then I'd be like, all right, so now I just want to fill in all this extra space. This is not this is a paint bucket, but this will do the entire face anyways. So, um, careful there. And then at the underside, let's make a good like gray texture. Let's put it here and then fill in that entire underside. If something gets in your way, you can simply take this little eye. So let's say the body was in the way. I could just turn it off. I don't want to see it anymore. And then I can do all my special little doodling. I can do my special little doodling underneath, and it will cause me no trouble whatsoever. Um, One thing that I probably could have showed you that would have been also a little bit easier. So let me turn something on called mirror painting. Actually, before I get onto that, let's make, like I was saying, the hands first. Let's say he's got like this, and then like the little hands. Actually, that still would have worked with the mirroring. So let's go into mirror painting, and then let's make the axis be on the z-axis and enable it. Now what this does, you notice that red, actually let's make it so you can see it a little bit better. It's going to put this little red grid on real quick because it's got to do a couple little measurements. But this is going to be a wonderful time saver because now if I simply have this thing where I start painting, you'll notice that it's going to be completely symmetrical to the other side, and that is going to be really interesting. Now when I work on the y-axis, it does not also seem to be working. It's not copying over there. It is copying on the outside over here. So that is a good difference to also depict. So it kind of also, it measures a lot of things. So that's pretty much like that. Um, let's just kind of keep on with our little texture. Let's say this one is going to be like the same. So that one's going to loop in while the other one's going to be not. And then let's say, let's make this fully black square black. That way the textures are all different, right? And then we could just put in some whites. He's going to be our nice little paper guy. So now his arms are done. And then for some legs, I feel like I should give him at least like some sort of color. But I don't. I don't want to. Edit. Oh, I want to look at the body, and now everything else that is going to get in the way. So let's turn off the everything else. The arms, the legs, and the head. I just want to take a look at the body. Blue will always be facing north. When you are in paint, if you go to the south side, you won't tell you what's north. You're just going to have to know the colors, I guess. Um, so this blue facing side is north. So this is going to be chest, his chest side. So let's add in a nice deep red, um, and let's see if I can. It's a good enough heart. I feel like that's a much better heart. And then we're just gonna make this side black. There we go. And then for his backside, uh, let's do the same thing, but let's make it upside down. Make him look edgy. And we're just gonna texture all that, and then make it black. Boop boop. So now he has a right side up heart and an upside down heart. Remember, this is his back. And actually, I want to put a little face in here. There we go. Now it looks like something completely else. Look at that. On his sides, we could probably do, let's do some black lines. Remember, this will copy to the other side. If you ever want to turn it off and you want to turn off mirror painting, you can always turn it off, not use it. That is perfectly fine. Let's see if I can make some sort of cool design in here. There we go. So now we got this dark to light rise. I could probably do the same with the heart if I wanted to. It's just some detailed shading. I try to do like a little pattern, I guess. And then we could probably put his. Actually, let's turn off the body and let's turn on the legs. The top part of the leg shouldn't really matter. Um, but let's. Oh my goodness, it's a complete fade. I just realized what I did there. Let's make a completely blank. Let's put this at the bottom here, and then we'll also do the bottom of his feet is fine. And then once again, let's try and... It's fine if I show everything now, because nothing else will be in my way. Oh, I didn't do the bottom side. Okay, let's take out the legs real quick. Sweep the leg. Let's make this whole thing black. Beautiful. Now let's show the legs. And I'm going to try and do the opposite of what I did here. So black was over here. So now we're going to do black on this side. Two, like that. On the side here. So it looks like black was over here. So we're going to move over here. Basically to copy all that black. And then over here and on the reverse side. I can't see the reverse side because the body's in the way. So then we had to go like this, this, and this. Beautiful. And now let's put in for white, and let's fill in the other side. All right, and now we have this. Now we have this man, and he looks a little odd. I don't know if I like it being that dark. I didn't do the top textures either. Not the body. I want to view the body. I do not want to view the head. So let's make these. Let's bucket these. All right. Let's do the same thing that I was doing earlier. So let's have these. Ooh, I'm still on there. Paint. So let's get rid of the body real quick. That's something that's totally not inconspicuous. Let's actually start the dark textures at the bottom. So let's have all of these bottom pieces be this really dark texture. And then we're going to start rising up each time we go up a level. Like that. Let's make sure we're using the color picker. Select the color picker. And then we're going to start here on the same scale. And then we'll use an extra darker color for the other one, but let's wait till we get there before we grab it. And then we just need to go through. So if you're looking at two sides, if you move 180 degrees, you now are looking at the complete opposite sides. So you don't have to go like extreme about what going 1, 2, 3, 4. If you just do like that little 180, so I done these two sides, 180. Now I've done these two. You can just keep doing it like that. It's much faster. Good time saver. And now we have a completely new looking boss here. It's not really a boss, but there he is. I think that looks a little bit cooler. The heart would also look cooler if I textured it, but I'm going to leave him just like this. Um, the more work you put into it, the better it'll look, I'm sure. So let's get on to. So now this painting is done. It looks like there's a. Oh wait, no, that's the bottom side. I was gonna say that looks like a missing texture piece. If something is colored one of those default colors, you'll know that you're missing something. So now we've done edit, paint. So let's move on to animate. Animating is something that is honestly it is a little bit difficult. Moving around, getting used to that was already difficult enough, but you do get used to it, as you can see. I mean, I've only made probably about 5 to 10 models, entities. I probably made just about 10, and I already have the basics of going through here. I've done this enough, so and I still make silly mistakes. Let's add an animation because now we have all the animations in here. Let's add one. And here you're going to do animation dot whatever the name of your thing is. So in this case, it's called example. You should name it whatever it is in there. And then whatever the animation is doing. Idle it is one that I commonly use, meaning just standing there. And then I always forget to do this. Let's go into loop mode, loop. And then I think if I go into properties, okay, it does the same thing. That's perfectly fine. Let's add in another one, play once, let's have it on loop. This one is going to be just the same thing, example, example, dot, and then let's make a walking animation. You could also do other ones. Just know that these are the basic ones that I'm going to be showing when we get into the thing. You can also make attacking animations and other stuff. If you just look at what other entities are kind of doing, you can kind of get an idea. But generally, walking and not moving and moving. That is the very basics of what this is doing. So idle, just standing there. What do I do with something that is just standing there? So remember how I said I want the body to be part of the legs when I'm doing the edit? I actually, although I was showing you that the body does come off the legs, I do actually separate them. Here, let's take just the left leg out of the body. So now we have the left leg and this. Let's go to animate. So now, let's not take out the arm. Let's take a look at the left leg. You're always going to want a starting position and an ending position. And so with your ending position, you're going to want to make sure that both of these say 0. This is because it is looping. So when it's gonna go to 0, it's gonna not be 0, and then suddenly it's gonna be 0 again. And when it reaches to this last key, it's going to start over where it started. So making sure that your last numbers are the same exact as your starting numbers is the most important thing about animations to make them look smooth. So let's now go into this middle key here, and then let's put in a position, and let's say I want this to go up one block. There's a particular reason I'm going to say up, even though I'm going to change this. Your easing is basically how it looks. I always use the straight one. Let's just take a look. Okay, so this is the left leg, and you can see right now he's kind of stamping his foot, and that's pretty good. And then we can actually copy these, so we can literally Control C, and then we can click on here and Control V, and then just drag them to how you want. So then if I hit play animation, the body moves because the thing is moving. But if I say I want this to stop, you're going to notice that when you separate the leg, that doesn't look good. Now you can actually fix this really easy by saying instead of +1, do -1. And now the leg is moving, and this one that is not part of the body is more of what I'm looking for. Now you can fix this if we go into the right leg and we Control V, and right here he is doing like a little bit of a stamper. This is like a pretty good idle. I mean, if you want to keep it like that, you can. But let's try and talk about what we're gonna do to fix this. Let's drag this one and make sure it's on that 0.5. And so now we have the left leg. Let's kick it out for here. The body is going -1, and if I wanted to fight it, it would make sense for me to make this +1. This is also supposed to make sure that everything is on that single one key. I don't know why everything's like dragged out. Make sure everything is aligned. When everything is aligned, that's how you know it's good. There we go. So now it is simply resisting the leg, and because this is going down 1, and at the same time this is going up 1, you should technically have the leg inside. The preference is, what do you want to do? You don't have to animate the leg in idle if it is holding still, but you would have to just do a minus roll for what you have here, doing subtractions. Because technically that is how it should be, I'm going to put it back. So let's start at 0. Most importantly, end at 0. Why is that there? There we go. And then making sure that my half position, I add in a position, and that it will be the opposite of what my thing is doing. So if I say 1, it will now move the body up and down in a little bit of a rigorous pace. So what we have here is the guy is bobbling, and that is perfectly fine, but most of it comes down to the body's central position and how it is moving. So right now we have this -1, while we're having the legs negate them by calling them +1. So these two are netting 0, but I'm going to do something where if I say that the body moves, if the body moves 0, then only the legs will move 1. And if I say 1, it'll almost start a regular 1. It'll start to look like he's jumping. And this is another type of idle animation that is this is generally a good jumping one. So what is happening is this is 1, and since the both legs are 1 as well, so they already are defaulted 1, and so the body is 1, but every time it adds 1 to these ones, the body's 1, but the legs are worth 2. And so it's giving the legs a lot more push effort, double the push effort as a matter of fact, and so it gives this little jumping feel. I'm not going to have him be jumping, but it is something that I want to show you because that is one of the key animations that a lot of people like to have and see, and stuff like that. So I do like this little bobble that he does. Let's work on the arms, and let's work on rotations. I can just simply just kind of close out of these, and they are still functioning, as you can see if I cross out of them. And then if I want to look at it again, I can open it up and take another peek at it. Let's open up the left and right arm, And let's make default positions, meaning add in, let's actually make rotations. This is where stuff is going to get a little bit interesting. And then a central position. So we're going to do the same thing. I could have done them at the same time. Add this one here. All right, so now they are all 0, and so we're only going to want to change the little middle one. And so we have basically that. So we have all these circles, right? And remember how we have that positive and the blue? So if I want them to move in a direction, I want the arms to flap just a little bit. So this means that I'm not going to be working on the blue line or a green. Green is straight up and down. I'm going to be working on red. Now, if I want this to move in the 0 axis, um, it's gonna do something really, really strange. So let's put this at 2, and it's starting to flutter the arm. And let's put this at 20 so we can really get a good feel of what's going on. And this is going to look really odd. And why is it not putting into the position that the rotation point is right here? It looks like it's rotating from here. And this is something called pivot point. I mentioned this a while back in the video, so let's set this back at 0. And let's stop the animation. And then let's go back to edit. This is something that is very important, and they are going to be made for all of your rotations. So every time you have a cube, make sure that your pivot point is at 0. It's just something that I personally do. Just double click, and then we'll double click on here, and then over here. All right. You want to make sure that all of your body points, all of your folders, have a pivot point. So the body's pivot point, um, we could probably say is like in the middle, I guess. What is a pivot point? Pivot point is if it was to rotate, how does it rotate the entire object? Now I set it to here, right, in the center. If I set it down at 0 and I start rotating, the pivot point is here, meaning it's going to rotate based on how where that centerpiece is. If I want him to waddle, this is a great place to put the body. But I'm going to put this back at 10. And so that way, if he rotates, it kind of gives a different kind of feel. Let's do the right leg. You want it from where the connection point is. So we're going to want it in here. Let's take a look at basically where the leg is. So actually, it looks like the pivot point's already on the ground. That is pretty good. Let's pick it up 6 units. So that is right here at the base. That is perfect. That is just what we want. So now, if I rotate the leg, you can see how it moves to the side. If I try and move it forward like he's kicking something, it is truly moving forward, and then I can move it back. So that is where you would want it, is where it is connecting to the other piece and where it's going to start its rotation, and the rest of it is going to do its actual swing. So now let's look on the left leg, and then it's on the ground here. Usually they're at 0, 0. I don't know why they're automatically, I mean, it's actually better that way, but that's just how it is. Let's take a look at the left arm. Yeah, this is where I'm used to seeing them, is right here on the ground. So I want this to be a little bit more on we're going to have to go into negative red. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think. That looks like it would be center. Actually, no, it's going to have to be 4 because of where I have it. And then let's elevate it so that it is basically that shoulder point. So now that is where it's connecting to the body. So now if I try and that is the am I oh I'm on the piece. Don't pivot the piece, pivot the folder. So the pivot point is there, left leg is there, left arm. How did I don't even know. All right, so like we said we wanted this to be -5, I thought, and then I said -4, and then we picked this up. I don't remember what the number was, so we're gonna have to drag it up manually again. It was 13. All right, so now if I rotate the arm, it'll go in. We don't want it doing that, but that'd be for elevation. This is the most likely the swinging you're going to be using. So this is perfectly where I would want it to be. Let's remember 13.0. So when I click on right arm, I'm going to say I want this to be at 13.0, and it's going to put it right here, except I want it closer on the red axis. So let's increase these reds until it is where I would want it to be, which is 4. Obviously, it would be the opposite of -4 because I do have a symmetrical entity. And then lastly, so we have the left, the right arm, and lastly we have the head. Let's make it in between where the head and this is. So since this is already centered, all we have to do is pick this up, basically right under the head. Let's make it so we can't see the head. There it is, because it's kind of hidden in there. If I zoom out all the way, the more you zoom out, the bigger this thing will get. So, but if you zoom in, I was too zoomed in to see it. So if I see the head, you'll notice that it is nice and symmetrically in there now. But if I zoom in, it kind of hides under his chin. Let's go back to animate. And let's take a look at those rotations again. So now I have put all of the rotations in the proper place. And like I was saying earlier, you are going to want to fix these based on their the red. So let's increase this to about 10, and so this is going to he's swaying it back and forth. Perhaps this is not what I would want. I would actually want this on the blue. I may have messed the wording up. And then let's put this at 0. And so right now his arm is swaying, and I feel like this is probably a little aggressive. You can set them at point scales. So let's put this on an easier number. Let's say 5. That's a lot more of a little bit of a breathing. I mean, you could even say 1. So that's that. 3, 5. I mean, even if they are a little aggressive, it should be fine. I like this 5. Let's cut the. Let's look inside the body where I have a lot of this major rotation. Let's put this at 0.5. And when we move the body, we are also going to want to fix those right and left leg. And so let's have this, instead of 1, we need it to be 0.5 to perfectly symmetricalize it out. And then this one to be the same thing, 0.5. And so now it should look a little bit more subtle than aggressive. And I do like this. This does look like a much better. So let's kick out the legs, kick out the head, and the arm. We'll work on the head in just a second. And then so if this one is 5, this one is the opposite side. So we're going to have this one be -5. And so now if I click on none of the pieces, I would say that is a very good idle. One more thing that I like to mess with is the head. So let's work on this, and I like to give the head a little bit of a bobble. All right, so now we have the head. Let's make a start and stop rotation. I don't know why that little globe is there. And then let's try and make him do a little bobble. So let's take the Z and then let's say like 10. Is that rotation? Yes, because it's animating the rotation. Let's put 10 on here and then see how he's starting to put his head down. So that is the direction I am going to want. And then if I say OK, he's going to bobble his head probably a little extreme because we agreed that 10 was an extreme number and we set the 5, and then that made it look a little bit smoother. And then here, even if I say 3, yeah, that is a lot. He looks a little bit happier about it. So he is just bobbing his head slowly. I would say that that is a very good complete. Why is his arm not moving? All right, there we are. I don't know why his arm stopped moving, but it did. So now this is a good and complete idle animation. So now we can move on to walk. So when you start an animation or if your animation's on and you don't have specific keyframes yet, it's just gonna keep moving like this. It's really annoying. Just go all the way back to 0, and then you're gonna have to click on something that you're gonna have to put on your keyframe for. So let's start the walking with the left and right leg. Now this one I'm gonna tell you is gonna be a little bit more complex because we're gonna do we have one and the end, opposite, and then the end. So now with the leg, let's put in rotation on. We're gonna make 5 for each. Now, a lot of them, 6 of those, are going to be 0. It's going to start and stop, and as soon as it stops, it's going to start, but it's going to go in the opposite direction of this one, and then it's going to stop, in which it'll loop. So, let's take a look at the right leg, and we want it to move forward and back. So let's say 10, that way we can get a look at the position that we want, and then move it over here. Oop. That was a little much. Now, does a leg look like that when it walks? No. So we're going to take that out, and then we're going to do it like this. We're going to say 10, that it looks like it is going to be kicking to the back. Let's say 15. And then it's going to kick back. So if that is 15, this needs to be the opposite side. So let's say negative 15. And then it's going to be the same thing. If this is 15, we want the left leg to moving in the opposite direction. So let's say that this is going to be negative 15. I'm going to give this back your 0. Bothers me when that's out of there. And then if these two are negative, this is going to be the opposite of this one. So this is going to be regular 15. Let's see how that walking looks. So it does have a lot more rotation points, but this is a lot. This was pretty quick. Not too bad at all. So now that we have the legs working, let's do the same thing with the arms, except we're going to have them swing in the opposite direction. So, same thing. Let's make a position. Nope, not a position. Let's make a rotation for these. And then we're going to have to do basically the same thing. Which way do we want it to swing? And then 6 out of 10 of these are going to simply be 0, 0. And then this really is easy. All you need to figure out is that first arm, and you have it. So once again, let's say that this is going to be, let's say 15, moving in, and then hit play. And then right now it's moving with the leg here. So I want this one to be the opposite of the leg. So let's say minus 15. This one is going to be a regular 15. This one is going to be a regular 15. And then that means this one is going to be negative 15. Let's take a look at that arm swaying. Look at that. That already looks a little bit better. So let's kick everything out. And then if I wanted to do another little body thing, so let's take a look at the position, and let's take a look, and let's add the 5 position frames. I didn't add it. We're also going to need to do the right and left leg, because I know for a fact what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that little bobble. So let's add a position, position, and then a position, 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 and then this one is going to be position, position, and the last one's position, position. And then I have to do the same thing for the body because I couldn't really like stretch on it. This one, this one, this one, this one. All right, so it's going to do the body thing twice. The body is simply going to make, it's going to go down. If we remember, we're going to say, let's have this go down minus 0.5. And then again, it's going to do minus 0.5. And then for both the legs, we need to negate this. So we're going to say 0.5. This one is going to be 0.5. This one is going to be 0.5, and this last one is also going to be 0.5. So it should negate them, and now he's got a nice. That is probably the best walking animation I have ever made. If you want to also put on a little head bop like we did in the past, you can easily do that. Um, I'm not going to add it. I'm going to keep it straight like this. Um, but that is basically animations. Now let's talk about saving and exporting, and this is going to work with the other video that I will be making. This is going to come down into three parts. So you want to, I would recommend close all of your unsaved. That way you make sure that you don't save them individually. You want them saved as one entire group. Hit the save key, and this is going to be model. So in this case, let's call it example. This is going to be whatever the name of your animation is, and then you're going to hit save. When it comes down to your, let's go to edit, because I know it's going to be here, both of them. Let's hit save, and this is going to say example.png. Perfect. Make sure that you're putting all of these in the same folder, one that you will easily be able to access. I will hit save, and then let's go to File, Export, Export GitGolib model, and then you're going to do the example.go.json, and then we're going to hit save. So, now I always put them in my pictures, but we have the example animation, the geo.json, and the example PNG. Now, if that was some pretty simple stuff, I already have a tutorial about the modding stuff. So, I mean, if you wanted to add this, you could add this in yourself. This is just something that I was using to put in to show you how Blockbench works. As you can tell, I use Blockbench a little bit. But that's basically it. That's how we do animations. I'm gonna have a different thing called the floofers added, because of the sounds that I was making with Twix Dog. Love him very much. And so we have that's going to be going on. So you're not going to see this, but this will at least show you how to use Blockbench, because I did actually show how to make the floofers. I may say something about, like, remember when I was modeling the floofers. Yeah, I accidentally hit a button on my keyboard that stopped the recording, and I didn't notice it while I was recording, and I was like, oh no. And it was pretty bad. But so I decided, I mean, if I made a mistake, maybe it was for the best, because when I actually did the recording for just the coding itself, that the recording took 2 hours. So then I was like, and then I was gonna redo this and put it in the same video. Let's put them in two separate videos. And so with that in mind, that's going to be it for this video. This is just going to show you the Blockbench, and then we'll get into coding it in the next video. It's not going to be 2 hours long, I promise. I hope. Um, but that is going to be it for this video. So thank you guys so much for watching, and without further ado,